What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the first stream we've ever done on this channel and the first episode of our Dev Diary series, Beyond the Light. This is a very big table, as you can see, and there's going to be some more people joining me as I look over to them standing on the side. But we don't want to delay this any further. We're going to play the video, the full episode of our first Dev Diary, Beyond the Light, focusing on gameplay. But let's get straight into it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Lights, a series where developers are reacting to your comments, providing deep insights, and taking you behind the scenes of how we're crafting 007 First Light. This first episode is going to be focused on gameplay. Let's get straight into it.
Hello guys, I'm Andreas. I've been at IOI for around 10 years, and currently I'm the gameplay director of 007 First Light.
Now, let's see what all the fuss is about.
Let's go.
Bye.
Oh, you can lock the door? Oh, that's amazing.
I appreciate that they broke it up, where the underlings may not know everybody involved. They're an underling. Like, they wouldn't know everybody that's working that location. But the people in charge would. So you can't bluff them in the same way.
I knew from like Hitman and Stealth, like you have many different ways to achieve your objective, but I also love how many options you have in combat.
Yeah, exactly like that actually. Like we had a similar concept in Hitman with the enforcers. It's not the exact same thing, but it's related. So we have these NPCs that can see through you because they know the people working there. That's the idea about it. And it helps a lot when you try to create puzzles and setups to challenge the player in various ways.
Keep a low profile and don't let your guards down. 009 most certainly won't.
Creative approach, that's one of those fun things where really the base definition is about the player feeling creative when overcoming any given challenge in the game. And it's really easy to say that, but it's really hard to kind of translate that into what is the moment-to-moment gameplay that make you feel creative this way. But from this game, we broke it down into the thing that you need to know that there are different options in the game. If we start violating that trust as developers, the player will forget those options or not use them because they don't rely on them, and then it becomes much more narrow option space, so you disregard that. Or you get less creative, at least, in that sense. The last thing, and I think this is a key ingredient that we also had in our prior stealth games in Hitman, was, and I coined this as uncertainty in execution. It's really the thing that you know your own options, you see the options in the environment, and you get to that point where you think, okay, I'm gonna try this thing. So it might be throwing the smoke device and try to sneak by. When you get to the other point and get past them, you think to yourself, oh, I did it. It actually worked. The thing I wanted to do, it worked.
That needs a look.
We made games in the past where combat wasn't really the main approach, so now we have a game where we want stealth and combat to be on equal footing. Some of the ways that I think we push it forward is, and this is very gameplay focused, it's in the stealth gameplay actually, where we now have ways to de-escalate situations a lot easier than we've had before. And that happened because we've married some of those bond traits into our stealth mechanics. So for instance, the bluff.
Oi, I need to find Saunders. There's a chance the suspect is dressed as security. The bastard could be hiding right under your noses.
Damn. I'll keep an eye out for new faces.
Those are ways to kind of contain a situation, even though you were spotted in a place where you weren't supposed to be. You can talk your way out of it, or you can de-escalate the situation and maintain kind of your stealth status. So that loop in a stealth gameplay setting is something that twists us a little bit away from the normal stealth loops. It feels very good to have that second win or way out at least.
Antique books on display about the castle and local history.
Wonder if you could help me.
I'll certainly try, sir.
Are we ready? All right. Hello, my name is Thomas. I'm a senior level designer on 007 First Light, and I've been at IOI for about 4 years. So in order to highlight the environment, I think we rely a lot on making sure that the player is actually able to see every opportunity at first glance. One of the most important part for us is to be able to give information without the player actually thinking about it. So it just enters the space look at what he has and sees the options. And it can be just a railing, it can be two people talking, it could be some kind of eavesdrop opportunity. But the goal is that we present everything in an impeccable way so that the player can actually glance the options and choose whatever he wants. When we talk about IOI, we say this is a postcard creator, because every time you want to dream about a location, you buy the postcard. And you're like, oh, what is the postcard of Italy? And you will say, oh, it's Pise, the tower, right? It's not just showing you this place, it's showing you what you want to be and where you want to be in that space. I think what's interesting with having a young Bond is that it's almost a new canvas for us and also for players. And usually when you jump into the boots of a new iconic character like this, you are trying to match the energy of that character. And it's very hard to give that to the player right away, because players, they just get to discover this character with you. And having a young Bond is perfect, because that means you get to understand what Bond will understand at the same time as him. So basically you will try and rehearse at the same time Bond will actually try and rehearse in the game, which matches the energy that we want to give and the story we're trying to tell.
The laser fires a direct beam.
Oh yeah, the laser, nice.
Of course the laser. Yes. You can't really make Bond gadgets without having the laser.
Nice. Tactically on environmental weak points.
Nice. Just think about the options. We can disable devices from a distance, put people to sleep from a distance, hack things, smoke bombs, distract. When we get caught in a restricted area, we can use up our instinct to bluff.
Exactly. Think about the options. This is funny because obviously we've been in various stages of development on this project, right? And in some of these stages, also in-house, we've talked about, oh, do you have enough options? What is like? And you had so many options with the games we did prior to this, and it doesn't feel like we have the same. And when you look at them side by side now, Hitman and Bond, you can feel you have a lot more options here. Some of the things that in gameplay make you actually feel like James Bond is some of the things that you know from the movies also. It's unique moments where you see Bond fighting on an airplane wing, for instance. So in those moments you will feel like Bond. On top of that, there's obviously the gadgets, which is a key component of any Bond movie, and obviously should be in a game too.
We always started too big by having so many options that it actually becomes very hard to see all of them. And then we just prototype and test and iterate and test, and we end up with a few that we really like. And the rule from every mission and every encounter, rather social or combat, is to make sure the player has at least 3 or more different ways to solve one option and one puzzle or one situation.
But there are some of these iconic things, like the laser. That's iconic, right? So we really wanted that in somehow. So what kind of object does the laser fit on, right? And we also wanted them to distinct from each other. So if we had a thing for the watch, you've seen the watch being the laser in the movies, but we had other things that we also wanted the watch to be. So how can we marry those things, right?
When it comes to gadget, I think the essential part for us was to make sure we provide the players with enough opportunities to use them. If the player wants to test something and use a gadget somewhere, it should behave the way the player think it should behave. And I think it was just us having fun and trying to find the best way to have fun with those gadgets. All that in mind with what Bond is and how he should use gadgets. Because we all know Bond in the movies, he always uses the gadgets at the last second for the wrong usage, but it works. And I think we also want to provide that, this kind of uncertainty, but you can still do it.
Oh. Right in the foot, and you see the guy actually go down by the foot.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, dude.
He can climb this, which wasn't that way at all. It actually got knocked down after it got exploded. Look at him yeet the dude, and then kick his shotgun up into his hand.
Oh, no, that's fire.
This is like exactly what James Bond would be doing.
Holy God. But that destruction is what we're talking about. Ooh, ooh.
Having been
He's grabbing stuff, ramming them, pushing them over the ledge.
I love the rushing. The melee combat looks great. It looks quite versatile, and I like
strikes.
that.
The hand-to-hand combat does look kind of neat, not gonna lie.
I'm sorry, I'm very excited.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
The throwing stuff is doing it for me.
God, I love this.
God, I love it.
He says,
I
"Don't
also
get
love
up."
it.
Sometimes James.
Yeah, and obviously it's about adding all these moves so you can use the environment and you feel you have the range of tools to do what you want, right? And you see here, you ram into things, you throw things from the environment, you throw people around over the environment into the environment, and it's giving you a sense of improvisation, which is really Bond's signature way of doing close combat, in this game at least. Also what you know from some of the movies. My favorite environment interaction is probably the fire extinguisher. So it was one of these where, okay, I set out a vision at some point where saying, okay, we need to use these environment set pieces in close combat, and they need to go off. Even though it's not super realistic, it's just so much fun to have it happen, right? So, and the signature first attempt was the fire extinguisher. So you grab somebody, you throw them into a fire extinguisher, and that fire extinguisher blows up. And it can blow that guy back in your face, or it can blow up other people surrounding him and whatnot. And the instant we tried it, you just laugh out loud. It's like so fun. So now it got all over the place, like with cement bags and scaffolding. Throw people into those, and it blows up. Yeah, you can shoot them in the feet now. We implemented something where we actually register that as not a direct kill. So this is a way to go through our spaces in a way that you don't kill anybody. Even though we force combat on you in some specific cases, we make it so you can clear challenges in this way and clear these spaces without technically killing anybody. I recently tested another level where I had a similar sequence. I was shooting somebody and I ran out of bullets, and the most effective thing was to climb up a few stories onto a platform. I did that, but when I got there, I had another NPC in my face, and I punched him, and I needed to take him out fast, so I grabbed him, threw him over the railing, realized I still didn't have a gun, so I jumped after him, took his gun. There was another guy in my face, and I shot him, but I ran out of bullets, so I threw the gun. That took out the guy, and ran to him, took up his weapon, and fought on. And it was just, I had to pause the game and put my controller down. I was like, yes, it's actually happening naturally, the flow of events that we set out to do.
I think level design wise, when we build combat arenas and encounters, the goal for us is to make sure the player has enough options to use all the mechanics we have, so gadgets, guns, and melee. And I think to be able to achieve that, the best way is to provide moment-to-moment and second-to-second options for the player to always be able to move around and always move forward. That's the main thing we try to have, is that the player has to go forward and he has to be able to actually always find options. And that means we're not specifically a cover shooter. We don't want the player to stay and stick to one place. We want him to move around and switch between combat range and also combat melee. And that means also like using all the different things around to provide that. So combat scenarios are pretty different based on the mission and the context, right? So I think we have very guided combat moments where the player is there, everybody knows he's here and it's been seen, and you have to fight your way through, like every classic Bond movie. And in that sense, we usually provide forward momentum with like guiding the player towards a very essential and visual element, so that you always know where you need to go and you're not lost, so that you can also focus on the combat mechanics we have, moving forward, going from melee to range, and also trying to find your way through with gadgets.
In our previous games, combat, both range and close combat, was really a last resort for players. So this time around, we knew we had a protagonist that really, in James Bond, that really wanted a good combat experience. So we knew we had to craft that. We wanted it to be dynamic and reactionary and have that improvisation feel, as we know from James Bond as a character. And then I think the ultimate challenge was really the fact that we have these open gameplay spaces where we wanted the player to have total freedom, and you can choose whatever route you want. Do you want to do stealth? Do you want to do close combat, or anything in between, right? And for that to actually make sense for the player, we knew we had to craft a combat experience that was on par with the stealth experience. Some of the aspects in range combat in our game that we really wanted to highlight or emphasize on was the feeling of shooting a gun, right? You also need all those base level of functionality and feel that you have from other key shooter games, right? So we wanted that sound experience to be deep and impactful, and we spend a lot of time crafting explosions, right, to have that feel that feels like a beefy, meaty explosion. In 007 First Light feels like a very novel feature that we're doing here. It's something we had to invent for this game, because we have a character now that doesn't really shoot first. You know him as a character that he will use force if he needs to, but he won't shoot somebody who didn't actually shoot first. NPC draws a weapon, fires at you, or wants to really badly fire at you, then we give you license to kill, and now you're also allowed to draw your weapon and fire at him.
That's the car.
It's got too much of a head start.
We had to up our game here, and you can't really have a James Bond game without driving, so we had to do something, right? And I'm very happy that it has gotten together as it has. So now there's actually driving segments in the game, and you can chase some. You can do some of these mood driving segments where it's a little bit more calm. That's usually introductions to levels, and then you have some high octane chases to have fun with. I mean, the ultimate feeling we want to give the player is to feel like having played as the James Bond character. And this just adds so much into that bucket of feeling.
That was the first episode of Beyond the Lights. We really hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And don't forget, you can pre-order 007 First Light now and get a free Deluxe upgrade. See you guys next time.
You can swap whenever. Bam, we're back, and it's not just me anymore. I'm joined by two other people. Want to give yourselves an introduction? You can go first.
I go first?
You're right to my right. Let's start with you.
My name is Thomas, as you could see, and I'm a senior level designer, and I've been at IO for about 4 years now.
And I'm Andreas. I'm the gameplay director on First Light. And I'm an old IO rat. Been making IO games for many years. I think it's around 15, 16 years now. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
I'm Gabe. I've not been here that long. But I'm here to hang out. We're here to talk gameplay.
That's what we want.
Because this was our first, I guess we want to call it dev diary. We have a few more planned, as it was mentioned in the video, but obviously we need to talk gameplay first, because we had gameplay a while back. Tons of people have questions about it. We've seen it in chat already. But I do want to start with, we've had a few reveals. We've had characters, we've had gameplay, we've had the initial announcement, the teaser. Do you have one moment that you can like pick out as like, this was fun. I'm really happy we got that out there, or like a favorite moment?
I mean, for me, it's obviously watching the reaction videos, right? And then seeing the reactions to features like sabotaging doors, like that just feels right. And yeah, you can sabotage and lock people in. That's pretty fun. And then obviously the gun throw, which is also fairly novel, which got some good reactions. So that's pretty cool.
The gun throw is a classic.
Yeah, this was nice.
I don't think I've like seen someone react, or not react to the gun throw, because it's just like a moment that catches you kind of off guard. He's just like, what happened there? And just throws the gun. Do you have one?
I guess the Aston Martin reveal, like when the sound in the tunnel and everything, and the music going in, and it's crazy. Nice. It was great.
Nice. But we have a few topics we're going to cover today. If you watched the video, which I assume a lot of you did, we started out with creative approach, and creative approach is something I guess IO has worked on for a while. It's kind of baked into IO's history as a studio and everything that's been worked on before. But I'm curious, I guess, from both your perspectives, the past experiences we've obviously taken a lot from. So have we taken like creative approach and this concept of creative approach and whatever we define as creative approach, and translated the experience that we have on all the other stuff we worked on into 007? Like how has our experience now come into 007?
I talked about it in the video before this, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to start out with how you're feeling it.
How do you feel
it's
about creative approach?
translated
I love
into
it.
this game?
I mean, I didn't work on the Hitmans, right? But I think it's all about like bringing the options. That's always been a thing, right? We wanted to make sure the player has options all along and can check the environment, like observe and do something that he feels like will work, and it usually works if we do it well, right? I think that's what we aim to do. But in terms of like references to Hitman and knowledge, I think it's just being true to IOI's DNA, right? Trying to keep our strength and just repeat them. Of course, it's a different game, but I mean, you can always try to just reuse the learnings and just make sure you have options in your game. But Hitman has a lot of learnings for sure. Yeah. You know all of these.
By
heart.
heart.
Did you say an old IO rat?
I have a list actually, so let me get it through.
Some of the same things I say also in the video, especially that thing about you trying to do something and then seeing if it succeeds, and then it succeeds, and then you feel creative. But the point of it is really, from my point of view at least, is to make the player feel creative doing or solving any specific challenge we put in front of him, right? And that's giving him options first and foremost in the world, as your own toolbox, and then the behaviors of the NPCs, and then letting the player try these things out. And especially that feeling of thinking, oh, maybe I can solve it using this thing, like the smoke device, for instance. And you throw it, and you see if you can sneak by, and you're kind of safe, or you don't know, not sure. Sometimes you're almost being spotted, right? But then you get past them, and you cleared it, and you're like, oh, it worked. I did it my own way, and it worked. And you feel a little bit creative. So.
Because you talked a little bit in the video, especially around like gadgets, but like this idea of like uncertainty and approach, which I think is like, or uncertainty and execution. Like you're like, I have this idea.
Yeah.
Maybe the gadget will do this in this room full of people, but will it? And then you do it, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
And maybe it even didn't do what you expected it to do, right? It did something, or you thought, okay, it's probably gonna do this, then I can sneak around here and whatnot. But then you do it, and then it's a bigger explosion maybe than you accounted for, and more reacting to it. And like, okay, what do I do now? And then you kind of play by it or play with it, and then you succeed in another way. But it's an ad hoc solution, but it works out.
Yeah, I think the creative approach is like, it's all about the player testing, right? Like it's creative if it comes from the player, actually. So if you test something and it kind of works or does something else, it's actually when it gets creative, because otherwise you just follow something, right? Yeah. I think that's what we aim for.
But that's the point, right? We as developers need to put these options in the game, right? So it doesn't work if you're presented with a challenge where you can clearly see there's only one solution, right? We need these multiple different solutions to any given moment-to-moment challenge that we're setting in front of the player. So that's obviously what we are aiming for.
We do have some questions coming in about new gameplay. So just to be clear, this is a dev diary, so we're talking just about the concept of gameplay in 007 First Light. There won't be any new gameplay here. We're gonna set those expectations very early. But we're here talking with two people who know gameplay more than a lot of people in the studio. Maybe not everybody, because I think everybody has different expertises, but I would be hard pressed to find two people that know more about gameplay than you two.
Spend a lot of time
Thank
on
you.
it.
Spend a lot of time on it. That's an interesting question, Zachary. I don't actually know if we're doing something on purpose with the camera lenses. That is definitely a good question, though, for another one of our devs, which we can bring to them.
I'm not an expert on it, but I know it was the aim to do something at least. So it's not surprising that it looks like something where it fits different specific camera lenses. That was the aim. I'm not sure how much we are actually executing on it.
But that's a good question for one of our colleagues.
Yes, definitely.
We can bring them back maybe next time. I like this idea of just like uncertainty and approach, but also this idea of like just coming up with solutions on the spot. Because to me, that like when you watch all the melee combat, it screams that, right? Like he's picking like grabbing people, throwing them into things. He's picking up a what is it called? A cube? Not cube ball.
Bust.
Or
just
like throwing.
A pool ball.
A pool ball. That's the word I'm looking for. Just throwing it at people, and it's kind of this idea of like I grab what I can to make this work. And I like this idea of like, it's kind of chaotic, but it's like controlled chaos almost in a way. where like he's picking up the different parts. But I know you love fire extinguishers.
I love the fire extinguisher.
We actually do, yeah.
Because you talk about that in the video, just like your favorite interaction being just like...
It's just one of those things where we made this combat system, right? And we had these goals with it where it should feel dynamic and you should be using the environment and throwing people into it and picking up pool balls and throwing them in people's faces, right? And then to use the environment as much as possible, we had these not only destruction things like bookshelves or boss and whatnot, but we had these, we call them set pieces that actually have some gameplay purpose, and fire extinguishers are one of them, like scaffolding and whatnot. And then we tried, okay, what if these things get activated if you throw somebody into it, right?
Mm.
And then the first time I saw somebody thrown into a fire extinguisher and it blew up, and it was just like, that was joy.
Yeah.
That, just laughing out loud, and I knew we had something there.
Do you have any set pieces you like throwing people into?
I actually like the scaffolding stuff. Yeah, because it has this chain reaction thing where you throw the person and you're like, nice. Then it falls and it explodes everything around and you're like, yeah, maybe too much, but that was nice. But I think that's the surprise. I kind of like that too.
The idea of picking up the weapon from like either the ground, because he does a shotgun kick quite a bit, especially like the airfield. Was this just like I'm curious how you like. Is this something that was like a reference? Like someone had this idea, like I've seen this in a movie, or I've seen this in another game, or we've done this in fact. Like why throw the weapon of all things? I mean, it's like this idea of like, oh no, I need to do something.
So the throw weapon is actually something again coming from just like the James Bond kind of perspective. Like, okay, as you also said with the close combat, right? He's very just using whatever is in his reach, right, and just grabbing that. And then there's just this idea, okay, what if you're out of bullet? He just throws his gun. What does that feel like, right? And we had iterations early on where it didn't feel good. You just threw your gun away and then you had no ammo and you're like, what? Why did I do that? But now we've at a place where you can do it voluntarily or when you're out of ammo, and it feels good and gives you an advantage, like moving forward and playing aggressive, and it like puts more into that bucket of improvisation, which is a very strong character trait of Bard, right, in any given.
And it connects with what we wanted to achieve, which was we don't want to sit down behind a cover and shoot, right? We didn't want to do this. We wanted to find ways to progress and have the player always moving forward. And the throwing was a nice way to close the gap with the closest guy. And you're out of bullet and you're like, because this guy is going to be dazed for a little bit. And then you can just move up to him and steal another weapon or something. So yeah.
We had a few questions about kind of like more linear, but a little bit more open. There's people referencing obviously like Hitman. We have a lot of Hitman players in the community that are going to also hopefully jump into 007 First Light. But there's a lot of people who have asked like, okay, we're telling a reimagined origin story, right? Like this is a narrative experience, but we all obviously have some open parts.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about like what exactly are we calling open? Like what is that experience that people will get in more of the open experiences, but also the linear ones?
I mean, from my perspective, maybe you can talk about some details on it, right? But the point is really that this is a guided experience in general. There's a story we want to tell the player. But whenever we can, we open up into something we call core gameplay areas, or the more open areas, where you actually have choices on which route to go. And it's very clear, if I take this one route, I will not take the other route. I won't experience the whole thing. You can choose and you can mix and match and go in and out of these routes, right? Just as you've seen in some of our prior games with Hitman, right? Where you see a big chateau and there's obviously multiple ways in. And that's kind of what we want to mimic here. And but what we want to do also is tell the story, as I said, right? But one of our main key points as you go through the whole experience is variation. So you'll have some of these guided sections to do story exposition and for pacing issues or places. And then we'll open up in broader segments where you have choice. And you can try to break the game with all our gadgets or whatever you want. Or you can choose to stealth, or you can choose to combat, or anything in between. That's really your choice.
Also, someone asked if Bond is being played by an actual British person. It's played by Patrick Gibson, who I believe classifies that as that. So we should be good there. But you can Google it. That is actor for this James Bond story. But I'm curious a little bit more about like building, I guess from your perspective, building an arena, like a combat arena, but also more of like a narrative, like singular, linear. Level. Like what goes into the mindset you have if you look at a linear experience compared to a more open one?
I think it's also it's very nice to have linear spaces sometimes to explain and tell the story, because it's easier to get the same experience with players, right? And you get to see the same thing and experience it the same way at the fullest of its quality. But then when you get to, you want to play around and you have a lot of gadgets and a lot of ways and a lot of improvising that you can do, it's always better to have open spaces. And when we have, as I mentioned it in the video, we have different type of arenas. We could have arenas where we fight all along from the start because narratively it makes sense. But we are also like open ones, sandboxes a little bit more, right? Where we can explore and just stealth or choose whatever you want to do, right, with it. And I think that's the interesting part, because usually we try to tend to the narrative a lot in linear spaces so that it actually guides you and tells you everything you should see and hear. But then when you get to these open spaces, it's really up to level design fun and game design mechanics to shine and to fill in. The narrative is still here, right? But you also need to outshine it a little bit with gameplay, and that's what we try to do. So it's very fun. Both are fun actually to make, but sandboxes are nice. At least I love doing that. You can see I have a preference here, but
I know some level design wise, I know some games will take like visual cues, right? Like if you're supposed to jump up something, maybe the platform will be lit up a little bit more, or it'll be like, I know like some examples are like you're jumping up containers and there'll be like a yellow tarp which will show you the path. How are we presenting options to people in game? Is it
I think it's always a challenge, right? You want the player to see what you design. The best designs are the ones you see right away, so it's common sense and you see it and you're like, all right, I can jump that ledge and stuff like this. But it's also, we need to rely sometimes on affordances, visual affordances, and we do have ways, and I think we spend a lot of time actually finding nice ways, natural ways that you could actually find in that environment without actually. I'm not saying the blue tarp is we should never use it, right? But like if you put blue tarps everywhere, at some point you will figure it out, right? So we're trying to see
everything is a blue tarp.
Yeah, right. Even in a, but I think you're trying to find what matches the space, what you would find in that space, and you try to actually experiment a little bit with these, and then you play test, and if players are like, oh, I recognize this, I could actually do this and that, and it works. And sometimes it's harder and you need to rely on other stuff. But yeah, we try at least. We did a lot of trying, that's for sure. Yes.
I saw there was a few questions in chat about difficulties. Because I know we've talked very briefly, and it's been in some articles about the different difficulties in the game. But I think it'd be interesting just to give like a quick summary of kind of the experience we want to have, because there are different difficulties.
There are 3 different difficulties. There's like popular saying is the easy, normal, hard, right? But we'll go out with something where this is the intended experience that we kind of provide, and then one where if you're more story focused, as this is a narrative game, you can choose that one, and combat will be a little bit easier, and other things will guide you better through the game, right? And then you can have the hardcore or the hard experience where we'll tune some guiding away, and combat in general, both close and range combat, will be a little bit harder. Yeah.
So if I go the hardest difficulty, I can't just walk into a room and pretend like I'm the important person, like I bluff my way through every situation.
I mean, you still can do that. Like we have that mechanic, right, as a bluff mechanic. We can also talk about that a little bit, but that won't be taken away from you on the hard mode, but it might cost some more resource. Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit more about stealth, because I think stealth is a fun thing, and I think a lot of people like this idea of like sneaking through levels and really playing this persona of a spy, because to me at least, and this is very much my perspective, a spy always starts off with the sneaky stuff, right? The stuff you do behind the scenes, setting everything up, and then maybe things go loud in the end, and you're like, oh well, now things get a little bit messy. But how have we, because we talked a little bit about this video, but how have we taken kind of like stealth options but also adapted them for more of like a Bond experience, and also added more to it? Because like you said, bluff is something that we haven't done before.
Yeah, I think so. I have some preferences, and I know I have a secret, like a favorite thing we're doing with stealth in this game, but I would actually like to hear
Oh my god, he's
I'm
asking
putting
me.
on. I'm putting on.
I have the
to
best answer on the planet, but I would like you to go first.
It's actually something very invisible in the game, so that's what I like about it now. So it's not really that showy. It's not the best answer in the world, so no pressure.
Okay, I'm a huge stealth player too, so I really enjoyed it, and I think you have so many options, but it's also very. It's usually difficult to know like what would Bond do in that situation. I think the bluff was created from that. Like Bond is someone that speaks at least way more, and then we need a way to speak your way out of things. And I think we had like, of course, the base mechanics of a stealth, action adventure game. Of course, like you could hide and crouch and move, and be sneaky. I think I like using gadgets in stealth. I think it's when it makes me laugh a lot because you're behind the scenes, literally. Playing people around, and I don't even take out people. I just move around, I'm moving them like a control of lights in the streets, and then I'm just making my way out. Usually keeping the bluff for the last guy before the door.
So you can look sassy going out the last.
So you're like, oh, you saw me, but that's too late.
I've already made it out.
Yeah, but I think it's a global thing more than just one. But I'm very curious about yours now.
One thing you should try. I'm just saying it, right? Because you're saving the bluff. I went through a sentry zone the other day. I had a laser. It was just one sentry, and just walked slowly. And in my walk, I lasered the guy and just walked past him.
And then the sentry's avoided.
It's
improvise.
There's a good comment here.
Which
Thomas
one?
looks like he could be Q or a villain.
Or a villain.
Which one do you think?
But which one is cooler, right? It depends what kind of villain I get.
I mean, to be fair, being Q, I think is pretty
Q is cool, right? I'll take Q.
Q is he just.
Young Q, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, you could be
a
young
villain if I had to choose. Though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to be Silver Fox
Q? And then that's my secret. I remove it and I'm the villain.
Would you want to be young Q or do you want to be Silver Fox Q?
Young Q.
Because that's how he was described.
I think young Q. I'm not ready for the silver.
That's how I was described.
Yeah.
The first time I was introduced to Q, I had someone from the team was just like. And Q is a silver fox. I'm like, that is an interesting.
It is an interesting one.
But we're here to talk gameplay. We're getting distracted with characters.
We have
to reveal my favorite thing is it's really more about the fact that we've made Hitman for many years, right? And we kind of try to stay away, or players tend to stay away from the shooting and combat part. Right? They play it for the stealth experience, and if they get spotted, there's a big tendency to just restart and try again, right? Because they don't want to get spotted. They want to go through it totally discreet. And we tried a little bit in Hitman to see, okay, how can we overcome this with not safe scumming and whatnot? But we really didn't succeed. But I think we have a take here that succeeds in many ways, actually. So this thing about being more improvisational as Bond, taking that into account, and both level design setup-wise and some of our systems then play more into the fact that, okay, if you get spotted, you have ways to get out of it again. You have the bluff. You can also just punch your way out of it in a better combat system than we've done before, right? And also the setup is done in a way, or we try at least you're able to contain the situation. So if you get spotted, there might be 2 or 3 guys, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? You punch them down, and then if nobody else was alerted, you get this situation contained up on the screen, and then you're safe again. And just having that loop of trying to stealth, then maybe you get spotted, but you punch them down, and then you're safe again, and then you can continue your stealth run. Makes you not want to restart, which is a really cool loop.
It's kind of
you can save yourself basically.
Yes,
you can save the run. I just like this description of. I got spotted, so I punched them to unspot myself. You can't see
basically
me now.
You do that.
But I think that opens up to a lot of cool moments. Like remember when we tried bluffing and having reinforcement in an arena, you would stealth it out, then someone would see you, you would punch him out, situation contained, but then the camera saw the thing, so people arrive to check on the bodies, you would bluff the guys, saying like, yeah, they were there already, and then they're like, wait, what? And then you leave. I think it's a cool, because we had to maintain all the experiences at once, right? Like at some point, like you could fight, you can shoot in some areas, of course, then you can also stealth, but all of them needs to be possible, right? Exactly. And they need to kind of be linked to each other in some ways, and I think that's the great part, because you can screw it up. But yeah.
But you can carry on.
But
anyway.
recover in a stylish way.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Someone's asking before it goes off screen. You include the iconic gun barrel sequence. There are some stuff we're just not going to talk about because it's fun to have some things that are there for launch, right?
Yeah.
Like we can't spoil the whole thing. Gun barrel sequence seems like something, maybe you'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll find out. Zuka the Animal is asking about community mods. We don't actually have any news on that, but I think it'd be something cool. But that's just my own opinion. Don't have anything to share on that just now. Do we get a homing briefcase attack? This is funny because this is
funny.
this is your. We're gonna take a small,
This is nice.
small.
Funnily enough, I'm gonna reveal I actually designed that briefcase for Hitman 2. So thank you for that question. Right until now, we don't have a homing briefcase in Bond, sadly, but I would love it.
When will the game be available for pre-order on the US eShop? It should be available. It's been available since September. If you click on the one of the banners down below in the description on Twitch, will take you to where you can pick something up. Was it Someone's asking, was it difficult to design the look of James Bond? Which is very interesting because you two are not the people to ask about that. But we may have someone who knows more about that in a future video.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that. But we've had a lot of questions about gadgets.
Yes.
Both just in general, because I think when people see gadgets, they're just like, oh, this is Bond. And then gadgets are like, you think back to like you being Q and all, as we've established.
And here's
and here's the mouse.
Yeah.
This idea of like Q Lab just being this chaotic center of just so many different things.
Yeah.
What is this idea of like how like we talked a little bit about it in the video, like iterating and testing, but like actually coming up with gadgets. Like you have a template, like okay, a gadget could fit in a phone.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked also about like the earphones doing stuff. Lighters have a function beyond just lighting things. How have we gone from like the idea of okay, I want a gadget that does this. What does that fit into? Or do we start somewhere that's like okay, we have this device that Bond usually has onto him. Let's see if we can fit a gadget into it.
Yeah, that's
a bit of both, right?
It's a bit of both. Yeah, like the story was actually started with us kind of deciding how should gadgets actually fit into the game, right? And we've also been through because you see in movies where when he's using gadgets there, it's really one-offs. He gets a gadget from Q, and then there's an opportune moment later in the story where he uses that gadget one time or something.
It's almost
right?
like it's scripted.
Yeah, almost like it's scripted, right? Just like
what is going on in movies, right? What's the hell?
Choice movies. But no, so we could have done that, right? And that was also up on the table. And it's like, okay, should we do that? And to kind of highlight specific gadgets a lot. But the more we thought about it, the more it was like, okay, if you played this game, and when you think about James Bond, you just think about gadgets as a main pillar in that whole universe, right? So when you've played this game, you should feel like you've used gadgets, and it was your choice to use gadgets when you wanted, right? So very early on, we kind of like decided, okay, these needs to be part of just moment-to-moment gameplay in some shape or form, right? And then you start brainstorming, okay, first of all, the ideas can come from what are some cool, we know we wanted it grounded, what are some cool everyday objects that you can use? A lighter, a phone, a watch, obviously has a watch, right? So what gadget is that? And then the other side is like, but what mechanics in moment-to-moment gameplay would then be cool to use? And then you start brainstorming on that. Okay, would it be cool to turn a laptop on and off? Yeah, that might be fun. That can maybe distract somebody in the moment, right? So yeah, we'll have a hacking device, for instance, right?
We see that on the plane, for example. He uses the watch to get into the plane to control the tilt controls.
Also that, yes.
In-depth use of the watch.
Yeah, and then it goes on, and we start brainstorming and prototyping all these small ideas, and you eventually like own in on something. That's also like the laser is also just something like we've seen the laser. It's an iconic Bond gadget already. Can we get that in somehow, right? And what does it actually do? Yeah, we're not sure. Let's try some things out.
This one is like, and the laser, right?
Yeah.
And what do we do about it? Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let's try some.
So we had to get it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of just like it fitting the gadget to a device, but also trying to find the function to fit to the device itself, because it's
or
like
the other way around. Actually.
Yeah. It's just like you have the watch, and all I can think about is, watching like the gameplay trailer, for example, is how many watches exploded. there's a few of them that turn into explosive devices at some point. I'm just like, Bond is gonna need a lot of watches at some point. But I like this idea. Someone's asking, just generally, I guess, if this is a mix between some other titles like Uncharted or Tomb Raider or Hitman. But I think in maybe adjusting the question a little bit to like back to combat almost, and like the overall design of the game. But we've obviously learned a lot from other titles. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Both of you have worked on other games, either here at IO or somewhere else. So taking these learnings is like, how have we found the balance of, you know, creating new systems but also taking learnings from other ones? And is there any, I'm curious, is like if there's any reference maybe just from your own experience playing games. This could be a Hitman reference, it could be something else that you've kind of like said like, oh, that would be cool, and then adapted it for Bond or 007. Sorry.
Oh, that's a good question, actually.
It's a surprise question because it comes from chat.
I mean, obviously we've taken a lot of inspiration from a lot of different games, right? And it depends also, like some of them are for the whole structure, like I obviously see some Uncharted in the cinematic presentation of the thing, but the more open areas with the core gameplay that we have, that's definitely not Uncharted, that's more over in the Hitman section, right? I think we learned a lot also on the character control side that we needed to get from other games also. That's not necessarily a specific game that we got it from, but that's a mix match between looking at a lot of things we played ourselves and then felt, okay, that's a third person controller here that feels more responsive and more agile. Like, how do we put that into the game, right? And that's then we take a reference from several games to see, okay, we like the run from this game, we like the responsiveness of the turns in this game and the vaulting and whatnot, right? So. Yeah,
it's like a lot of pieces that come together, but it creates a unique experience, right? Like it's not like, oh, we take it from this and this, so it's this combined.
It's not that easy.
No.
But I mean, that is also why it's a super hard exercise, right? It's getting what you like on paper and just trying to make it match your experience, your own game, right? And I think it's also like, when you talked about camera, you talked about like speed and stuff like this, but then it impacts everything else. So if you move faster, then level design will have to be a little bit bigger to adjust to all that, right? Because it's a constant process, and at least at first. Yeah. And then you start to hit something you like, and some of them are from Hitman stuff, and some of them are from other games, and I think it clicks at some point. But it does. There's so many inspiration, I guess. At some point, it's like
that's the thing, right? You grab from wherever you can, right?
I mean, it makes sense, right? If you feel like you enjoyed something, why not learn from it? And try to replicate it in some way.
Especially on stuff like combat, which we've traditionally not been the greatest at, right? Like close combat in Hitman is not necessarily a full-fledged close combat system, and we knew we needed that for this game, right? So there you start looking at references. I think people also see Arkham games in there, right? So that's the fact. But then you add the juice that we want with Bond, with the improvisation and the more dynamic environment destruction and whatnot, right? And then you end with something that feels like a Bond close combat system instead.
To take it a little bit back to gadgets, and by the way, if there's anybody in chat that has questions, just spam them. We'll do our best to ask them or answer them. We'll ask you questions back, maybe. But for gadgets, we had some questions in the community just about maybe a little bit on the progression side, because there was a question of like, and you also see this in the movies. Bond doesn't just walk in and Q gives him the entire lab, right? He picks and chooses. Like in more recent movies, you'll see him. He's like, here, you have this gun, enjoy. And like but that's also kind of like the tools that you get that you have to work with. So how are we handling like progression? If you talk a little bit about just how gadgets are like unlocked in the game.
Yeah, and our progression is based on gadgets in this game actually, right? So you start with very few and you get introduced to them and you get some environments where they are very usable. And then when you get back to QLab through the story, you introduce to some new gadgets and you get something to choose from. And then it's actually you choosing based on what you think are useful and maybe based on what your own playstyle is, like which gadgets do you actually want to bring into the next mission, because you can't bring them all in the end. You'll have to choose between some, right? So that's kind of the some more choice you want to put on the player, both choosing your tools yourself and then getting into the level and then seeing how you can apply those and hopefully ending up in you feeling creative in the end, right?
On the level design side, have you when these gadgets start? That's you, by the way. when we have these gadgets starting to come into the game, do you actually like consider that for how you design like a combat arena? They're like, oh, we've unlocked now the phone, for example, for this mission.
Yeah.
Do I now have to then consider that for the level design, or is it like completely up to the player and you just kind of like keep a general principle for how these arenas look?
I guess the more you progress in the game, the more your options are wide, right? Like you get more gadgets, so you get to pick each, and the player might actually arrive with one that you really like, and sometimes without, and the arena still needs to work, right? So I think it's
you're still stuck there.
Yeah,
you
like,
gotta get out of it.
Okay, somehow, but I think it's definitely taken into account. I think we try to have every gadget work in arenas in general, so that in case anything happens, we can see good answers and good reactions. But yeah, some arenas might have focuses. I don't know.
But
you don't know.
Maybe.
It's
not.
just most of the time we try to design it for everything, so that actually you're free to choose and you're free to actually interact with everything you have, and yeah, the game is gonna give you feedback and answers.
Bobby's asking about the length of the game, but I'll just be very clear. We're not going to talk about the exact lengths of the game. There's some stuff we'll leave for launch. On that subject, resources. We talked a little bit about resources because obviously, the watch has different functionalities. It does different things. How are we taking this idea of like resources? How do we balance kind of the missions around resources? Because you can't have it needs to be finite, right? It can't just be infinite. You can't walk in and just like just laser everybody. I'm done. How have we made sure that it doesn't feel like a strenuous, but also engaging in a way where it's like, oh, this makes sense?
Yeah, so first of all, we felt like we had to put some resources on the gadgets also, just because the mechanics we've put on them, they should be interesting enough for you to feel they were useful. And it's very hard to balance that with being, if you can do them all the time, for instance. So we have an economy where you have to have some resources. I think you see it on the gameplay trailer also, right? Where we have these two different resources depending on which gadget you're using. You can use some electricity or some chemicals, and different gadgets use different resources. And that's kind of how we balance it, right? On a feature side. So some can be a little bit more overpowered than the others, but then they cost a little bit more resource, right? And then there's the whole getting resources, which is on the level design part.
Yeah, that's more like of we have beautiful environments and we have open areas, and usually we try to just rely on this, right? It's a great way to explore the game and get to see the surroundings, and you see your options. You might know how to approach it, but then you're like, I might be short on chemicals. I don't know, something. And I might just, you kind of know, you find these around like some specific areas, so you might actually want to explore, which might even reveal new options for you. So I think that was always a nice way to visit the spaces. And then of course we have to make sure that you can't, as you said, just shoot your watch everywhere and dart everyone. I think it's also trying to balance the game to also see like, all right, you have the exact amount to do this super nice move, but then will you find it and will you know how to do it? That's up to you. But yes, yeah,
because we have this loop of you run out of gadgets or gadget resources, and then you're like, what do I do? Okay, I need to go and find some resources that are placed, I should say, right? And it's cool if you kind of realize, oh, there's some resource there. I'm already full resources, but I'll remember where this one is, because then I can use some and come back if I actually need it, right? And it's obviously it's a balance between that feeling irritating as you have to backtrack and stuff like that, and that's the balance we have to hit right, and we're trying to do right. So we don't want that, I have to go back for something feeling, right? So, but yeah.
Someone's actually asking, and this is interesting because we're going to talk about License to Kill in a little bit, because we're going to move on to the combat and driving section that I have in front of me. But someone's asking, what happens if where'd he go? What happens if I kill an NPC but I don't have license? Which is funny. I love the way the question is framed. It's like, what if I kill them but I don't have the license that allows me to kill them?
Nobody's going to arrest you. I mean, technically you actually can't. So the way we structure it is really that whatever you can do when you don't have license to kill is always non-lethal. So you can punch people in the face, but they will not actually die from it. They'll just get knocked out, right? The same with using some of these set pieces like drop or scaffolding. Some will jump out the way, some will get hit, but they'll be knocked out.
Yeah. Just have a pile of metal on top of it.
Yeah. So that's how we solve it, really, in that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. We did run into moments where we're like,
this is borderline killing an NPC if you do
like,
this, but
if I do this, I might
but
actually
technically,
if he jumps far enough.
Yeah.
Nice. We talked a little bit in the video about like the seamless transition between combat and melee, and we see a lot in like the airfield, right? Like again, throwing the weapons, picking them up, kicking them up, jumping over a car, kicking a guy in the head. But when it comes to like making sure they have the right options, how does it really like stand out? Because we talked about having set pieces, having the tools available, having kind of this uncertainty and like what's the word, like make it up as you go. There's a word for this.
Improvisation.
Yes. Out my head and it didn't come back as I was talking. But how from a development standpoint, how do you approach these situations and really make them like stand out and like make our environment shine, but also make the combat feel like you had this moment in the video where you're like you had to put down your controller because you're like all these things came together.
So that's always a direction we wanted to go for from the beginning, that you come in and out of close combat, and we see these sequences. You also see it in the gameplay trailer. But we have these sequences where you have an enemy in front of you. He has a gun. You run over to him. You vault over cover. You kick him. Then you do a takedown and disarm. You have a gun. You shoot that. You shoot a couple of guys with that. It runs out of bullets. You throw the gun. You run. Take a new gun out. You grab one and throw them into the other, throw them over railing.
Just throwing everything, really.
Having that like sequence of events happening, right? That's where we want to get to, and what we're trying to do as much. Obviously, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, it feels pretty good, and that's the goal of it, really. But and I mean, I think we're trying to set up some scenes that can happen in, right? But
I think there's also like this. We approach arenas as what's the unique selling point of that arena? What do I want to create in that space? And then you just come up with some themes that we like, and then you're like, all right, but how can I achieve this? And I think you can rely on all the systemics we have: throwing, grabbing, pushing, which is always going to be there, right? No matter what I place as a designer. But then it's like helping it moving forward, or helping balancing it by having set pieces placed in the right space, or having the scaffolding in the right area, or if you want to throw, like let's say you play and you always throw this guy around this corner, but let's maybe have something in the corner so that there's a reaction. And then Rose, it's like explosions around and the momentum and the rush. I think it's also all aligned with Bond chasing the plane, which might be different in another one, right?
Yes. But I had my sequence of event. I have that in the red room that we also show. But it was just amazing. Like I went up and people were shooting. I didn't have a gun. Went up and tried to grab it and threw the guy away. And I'm like, oh, I still don't have a gun. Jump over after him and whatnot.
It's a
felt good, but
kind of a choreography thing.
Yeah.
So someone's asking about official release date. We do have that. March 27th, as a few people have said. So March 27th next year. Not too far away.
Nope.
I joined back in June. I was like, oh, that game is so far away.
No, it's not.
I'm like, it's really not that far away.
Then you woke up now and you're like,
hello. Yes, the license to kill is super fun to talk about because I love this idea of de-escalating situations. We talked about that with bluffing your way out of situations, but there's also escalating situations, which is like you can start a situation out which it's not a kill situation. It's a non-lethal situation, right? Like getting a little bit messy, it's getting a bit scruffy, but it can turn into a situation.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about like
with some help, it could turn into a license to kill situation.
Exactly.
But who's helping really? Is it the scaffolding that you conveniently place next to the
scaffolding? It's Bond most of the time.
Systemic rules for that.
Yeah. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about like, I know we have some situations like you see the airfield, right? That's a hard license to kill moment to get out of because it's a scripted moment in a way. Like this is a high action sequence that's about to happen. You're jumping onto an airplane.
Yeah.
There's going to be explosions and some shooting happening. But I'm curious kind of this escalating moment because I like this idea of, again, it starts out somewhat tame and then it turns into something worse. So what is that process like?
Well, it's something to start off with. It's like a mechanic that we felt we had to make for this game, because you have this character which like doesn't actually shoot if he's not shot upon. Like he uses what we call appropriate force, right? So if somebody punches you, you punch back, but if you don't shoot back, right? So we kind of had this, especially in our more open areas, the core gameplay areas, where you can do what you want, but we can't really let you shoot all these people that actually haven't done anything bad to you yet. They are possibly bad people, but they haven't actually shot you yet, right? So we don't want you to let you shoot these guys. So we have a system where if you start a combat or something evolves there, if it carries on too long or you escalate it, like you get more involved in the fight and whatnot, somebody at some point will start saying, okay, enough is enough, and draw their gun. And when they do that, you also get the license to kill, because now they actually showed clear intent to like shoot and kill you, right? So now you're also allowed to do it.
They get bored of your antics.
Exactly.
They're just like, there's enough of this.
No
guy.
more punching.
I don't
kill that dude.
Don't want to deal with this. Is this something, I guess, on like the level design side that you also have to consider? Like every situation, I mean, maybe not every situation, but a lot of situations can escalate into something, or is it like we have this set piece in this environment, and if the player chooses to like want to do something crazy in it, they can? Or like how do you approach, I guess, this multi, you know, sometimes it's non-lethal, we don't fight, but you know, it can turn into a fight.
So I think since we don't want to kill before license to kill, we don't really have a set piece that will allow you to do this kind of thing. But you can make it loud and create a mess very quickly if you want. That might actually escalate. But I think it's also, when we play, we sometimes have moments where we're like, yeah, these guys, they will never have guns. So it's just going to be close combat and that's it. Yeah. But sometimes you will go against some people with heavy guns and stuff like this. And still, you can't shoot first, but you can annoy them pretty quickly. And you can also make sure that, like, if narratively you have a moment where they enter and they clearly state that they want to shoot you, we don't let you wait. You have license to kill, because Bond heard it and he knows, and he's like, all right, I might need to shoot back. And I think he was trying to hit that balance, I guess, a little bit. Just is it making sense narratively that now you shoot, or are they intending to kill on sight, or are they just searching for you? Yeah. That's also in line with the bluffing mechanic, right? Because if people don't know you, you can still bluff, and then you might not shoot them. So that's also like to balance this out.
Mude asking in chat, there will be a VOD for this. So if you missed the beginning part, you can scroll back on Twitch, or the whole video and the stream are also up on YouTube. But the full VOD should also be available on Twitch after we wrap up. But speaking of license to kill, because we also need to wrap up semi soon. We're actually it went by super fast in my head. I was like, oh wow, we're past 6 o'clock already. Okay. License to kill. We've had a lot of questions that are like, okay, so license to kill has kill in the name. Is it possible to play this game all the way through, bar no spoilers for story or anything like that, but if you think general combat, is it possible to complete a high intense action sequence without technically killing anyone?
I mean, technically it is, yes. Like because of the history of the company, obviously, right, with Hitman and Silent Assassin, Pseudo Only and stuff like that, we wanted to at least have some way to play this game also without killing everybody. So even in a place like the airstrip, where we say you have license to kill, you can shoot everybody, they shoot at you, you have to shoot at them, right? Technically, we've implemented something where if you shoot them in the legs, they will go down and be, okay, I'm out of the fight, I'm incapacitated,
I can't walk, and
they will get damage enough to get down, right? And you'll feel that is fine in relation to how much you shoot them, but technically we won't count that as a kill, so that will be a non-kill, and you could shoot them all in the legs here to clear those spaces without killing anybody.
There's also armor.
Yes,
you see that in like the airfield. He shoots a shotgun and there's like pieces that fly off of him.
Yeah.
How do we balance, I guess, are these, I'm thinking close combat, that's difficult to deal with. You see that a little bit in like the Red Room you were talking about. It's quite a small area to have someone that's in this like beefy, bulky suit. So how do we both kind of balance this, like, shotguns are great. They seem great against this armor. That's what we seem to be wanting to use all the time. So how do we balance this idea of like, okay, we have these super hard NPCs, we have a difficulty in the game that we want to achieve, but also not making it feel like almost, I don't want to say bullet spongy, but like, you know, you're just unloading a gun into someone for the sake of like they have a arbitrary health bar that you need to decrease.
How are you thinking about them in level design when you
I think it's all of,
do a space like the Red Room, for instance? How do you use the armored enemies there?
Usually we try to balance it with like the amount, like we know how many NPCs will be in this place, and we want to challenge the player in different ways, right? And if you have the armor guy in the open, there's a great chance that the player is going to take the side areas just to avoid him or to track him into a trap, right? I think it's interesting to have always an answer in the environment for players. So like if someone is a little bit too hard for you, it's okay. Just relocate. He's going to come to you. Might not be as smart.
Drop the scaffolding on his head.
It could be like he could stand beside the scaffolding, right?
Red Room, we had the screens that you can see in the videos, and you can use that into your advantage. And if sometimes you're stuck in front of one, you just only have one laser left, you can actually blind the guy and run away or take him out. I think it's balancing is something we take care of in this moment.
You sit there and like blind too many of them, so they're eventually going to show up with these like welding hats on. You're like, I can't use this now. Real quick, because we are at the end, but I do want to talk very quickly about driving, because I've seen some questions about driving. I know we talked about this quite a bit while we were filming the dev diary a bit, but I'm curious about just like kind of we saw in the gameplay trailer there was like mood driving sequence, you know, and it's like this is very much a narrative thing. You're getting to know the characters a little bit more. They're they're driving up to the hotel where the mission takes place. But can you talk a little bit more about the considerations? Because here at I/O we've never done driving, so this is something that's new for us.
Yeah.
So what both, I guess, in terms of like the feel for the cars and like what we want to achieve, but also, I mean, the driving sequences need to feel fun, right? They need to feel like you're chasing someone, or like if it's an intense situation, you're either chasing or running away from someone, where it feels fun to drive in. So what is like the overall consideration we have for both the level design but also the design of the car experience?
Yeah, I mean, for the experience part, at least from my part, it's it as you said, right? It was a challenge. It's something where we thought also early on, like we can't really have a Bond game without some driving in it. So we have these more or less bespoke driving segments. It's not huge free arenas, right? But it's some segments that fit good into the narrative drive through the game, right? And then we do that for pacing purposes or staging the mission that you're driving in with a mood drive, for instance, and then a chase in the middle of the mission. So you get some variation in gameplay there, right? But the feel of it is something where, okay, we knew we had to step it up. Like if we aim for the fidelity that we want in general in the game, we also needed to have this driving experience be well presented, right? So even though it's not, it's only these bespoke moments, we had to have a good enough feel for just like on par with some other driving experience that we feel are out there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, then design-wise, it's a lot of testing. Like you I mean,
this road felt
no,
great.
But there's also this thing where like you try something new, and everything is new, right? So like I guess all the designers, they took care of testing, feeling, trying to see what is our kind of feel for driving, right? What kind of game are we? And then you just start to hit something that you like, and then you look at the level and you see the length and the pacing and how difficult it is and how the control reacts with the car. And of course we have different cars, so that means different types of moments, right? And I think that's also why like the mood driving is super nice, because it allows us to still tell the story without actually having a cinematic for it, right? It's just you're in and you're actually playing and you're actually unfolding it with the characters, and I think that's great. And the fast speed one,
the fast speed one, I like this
the speed
demon,
the speed demon ones. This one's it's of course it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun when they.
I just like in the trailer you get obviously the 1979 Aston Martin, and you're like, oh, that's a classic car, and the first thing Bond does is just smash the window in and steal it, and you're just like, that's very Bond. Like just no regard, just like I need this vehicle for a purpose right now, so I'm taking it. But I think we're kind of to the point where we're gonna wrap things up. I see Hassan asking about Arabic subtitles in the game. I don't have any news on that, but it will definitely make sure the team knows. We get a lot of requests for different languages, so we make sure that the team knows that, and we can keep track of all the requests. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the first episode of Beyond the Light, our first stream. I think it went by super fast. I did.
Yeah, that was
could
quick.
just sit here and just talk forever.
Right.
But we talked gameplay, we talked a bunch about creative approach, gadgets, combat. If you haven't already seen the full video, we'll spam it in the chat as I look over to Artyom, who's sitting at the PC. Please spam it in the chat. That'd be great. But there's the full video for the Dev Diary, so make sure you check that out. But there will be more. We'll have some more topics, so keep the questions coming. We'll make sure we'll do our best to answer all of your questions. But if you haven't already, the game's available for pre-order. You get a free Deluxe Edition upgrade now. There's a link down in our About section. So if you haven't already, consider that. But you can always wishlist the game on your platforms. Keep up to date with all the latest news. Any final words you want to leave everybody with?
Just thanks for watching.
Yeah,
Guys, that's nice.
Bam, that's an easy final words.
Great ending.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
I'm not loving Beyond.
No, I've had worse.
Well, in that case.
Well, what are we waiting for? No sign of 009.
We need to inform M.
No time. I'm going after him. Make him call off the attack.
Are you out of your mind?
I'll be careful. He'd been the phone.
Go to the security room, first floor.
And you are?
Rob Minkley.
He's with me.
Come on, Moneypenny. If I lose the trail, we'll never know who they're working for. Oi, you lads got a faulty coffee machine? I hope I'm not interrupting anything.
You're not. Damien, meet.
Bond. James Bond.
If 009 slips through our fingers, we're the last line of defense.
Someone just tried to kill me.
Tell me you caught him.
Any sage advice?
Play nice.
Always.